Hey everyone, you're listening to the Active Turnkey podcast, a podcast designed for hands-off, passive real estate rental investors. In the Active Turnkey podcast, you'll hear Tom Olson and Jared Stoltmeister discuss all things turnkey rentals with other turnkey providers, service providers, and rental investors. Our goal is to help you reach your financial freedom and whatever comes after that. Let's go. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Active Turnkey podcast. I'm your host, Jared Stoltmeister, and I have with me the Tom Olson.
And if you're watching us right now, you're probably wondering what in the world is going on. Now, if you're listening to us, I apologize. You want to go to the YouTube and actually watch this one and then watch the last podcast because it's a lot different the way it looks. Yeah. And we're going to get better. We're just trying to get better every day, incremental. Incremental. But we are... I don't know what you would call our staff, our marketing department, has come up with some new ideas. So we've got some different lighting going on here in the studio. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. It's a little softer. Yeah. It's going to put you in the mood to listen to Active Turnkey.
Yeah, Tom's got a very white voice going on. Yeah.
I could tell Jared didn't want that to go any farther.
Yeah, I didn't really feel it. From you, but I mean, maybe somebody else might really enjoy that. Depending.
Yes. Okay, we'll just leave it at that. I won't go any farther.
Yeah, we got like a red light here, a blue light, and then a regular light.
There's a nice new logo sitting on the background there. It's going to be beautiful. Yeah. So, and we're all relying on Amelia. So just give us a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Let us know what you guys think about our new look. When it comes to the Active Turnkey podcast.
Yeah. So we are in a new series. We've already recorded 2 podcasts. One was on how to estimate after repair value. And seems pretty basic, but we went kind of through that a little bit. And then last one we recorded, we were talking about how to estimate rent and how off we can be sometimes and what's important to do and
what to look
and
for.
To associate there. And so today, kind of keeping it simple, and you can kind of think of this as like a desk assessment. So if you're evaluating a deal, this is what we do. This is what you should do. When a deal comes your way, this is before you go to the house. This is before you see really anything on the street, curb appeal, all that stuff. You're just thinking, what are the raw numbers? What is the details saying from just as I look on my computer to evaluate the deal?
Yeah, so like we're sending you deals, right? Or you're getting a deal. Maybe it's not from us. Maybe it's from someone else. And you're thinking, the first thing you need to think about is what we've already talked about, after repaired value. Okay, it's a very important piece. The second thing, well, we talked about it last week, and that was
rent.
Okay. Very important, the numbers. And then the third piece, that's a very important piece, is repairs.
Yeah, repairs, and you could argue repairs maybe should be right after ARV, but I mean, in the end, all these numbers go together at the end. Like you're going to create your own.
They either work or they don't. It's not like you want one or the other to be anything specific. You just need it to work.
Yep. Yeah. And that's really interesting. We had a guest come in town, and for years, one of the gauges people think of when they think of single family is the 1% rule, and we talked about that. But that is not a guarantee that a deal is working. Right.
And it's also not a guarantee that it doesn't work. Like sometimes we've had deals that the 1% isn't even 1%, and it's still a good deal. So that does work on both ends of the spectrum. So same thing with repairs. Yeah. But it is an important piece, especially in the active turnkey realm, because with turnkey, this is one of the major differences between turnkey and active turnkey, is that with turnkey, you don't have to worry about repairs unless you're buying a property that we would say isn't turnkey ready. It is just rentable. Yeah. Right? Yeah. So I actually just got off the phone with a lady who's interested in buying a property. And it was not from us. And I want to let everybody know, I'm more than willing to help you. If you want to try to buy from somebody else in our area, I want to help. I can't spend all my time running around but if people are going to be future customers for ours, and if they're interested in us helping them, I'm more than willing to help. And I talked to this lady for about 5 or 10 minutes. And one of the things that I was trying to tell her was, hey, you're going to buy a property. And this is, I shouldn't say you're going to buy, but she's looking at a property to buy. And the cash flow numbers are good. Like the ARV, strong. The rents, strong. Okay, but now we're getting to this next piece of repairs. So the repair number is the question mark at this point for her. And And honestly, it is for me too, because I've never seen the house. I've only seen pictures, and I saw a quick video of it. And I could tell right away, hey, this is not to our turnkey standard. Yeah. This does not have quartz countertops. Mm-hmm. This does not have luxury vinyl plank. This does not have new light fixtures. This does, you know what I mean? There's a lot of things that, you know, even like the basement area wasn't really painted. It was kind of dirty. And I know, trust me, I get it. It's livable. There's lots of rentals around the United States that's what people do. I call it step above slumlord. That's what I call it.
Sure. Rent ready.
Because I'm looking at trying to repair a property to the point where somebody would actually want to live there and they would be proud to live there. And I also think by doing everything, it helps raise the value of the property. Yeah. So there has been people that have bought properties from us in the past that bought a property already rented and they got a good discount on that property. They didn't buy it at a retail level. They got a discount. And the whole goal for that person was to then, once this person moved out, well, then they would do the rehab. It's kind of almost like an active turnkey, but they don't do it until after the tenant moves out. But for typical active turnkey, right, Jared, the house is vacant.
Yes. Yep,
I don't know that we've ever sold a house that like we say active turnkey.
It could be a critter running around, maybe.
Maybe, that's true. There might be a couple. But anyway, so repairs is that next most important piece that you kind of want to vet, and that's kind of what we want to talk a little bit about today.
Yeah, it's really interesting. You know, just touching on that, one thing you mentioned, Tom, I felt like I should say is, you know, when you're doing those types of repairs we're talking about, where you're buying one that's like above slum lord, there's nothing wrong with that, but that's really hard to assess the value. Right. It really is hard to pinpoint what that house is worth when you're not doing X, you know, whatever this list is. It's hard to know what is that appraiser going to appraise it at.
And in that particular circumstance, I believe cash flow at that point kind of starts to become, you know, a big deal. Yeah. Like in this particular deal, the cash flow was actually really strong. I was really kind of like, okay, well and I actually felt like one of the units in this particular building was under rented significantly. And I'm like, and on top of that, this was also under rented. The value was there. Everything was kind of there. The only thing that the big question mark though is, hey, when tenants move out, if I want to get this up to a good standard, solid, you know, what I would consider turnkey standard of rehab and top level rents, which I believe also means, you know, higher level you know, clients and residents, then what is it going to cost me at that point to rehab the property? And for active turnkey, again, it's a little bit different. Like we are sending these out kind of on a silver platter. We've already sent our contractors out. We've already gotten prices. We already know what we would have planned on putting in the property is in the property. But Jared, what are some of the key things though? Like I think when you're talking about repairs, there's probably some key. I always call it when I'm speaking and people ask me about this. I'm more like I do chunks. Like where is this? There's a big chunk here. There's a big chunk there. Sure. You're not going to get into the nitty gritty. You're not going to pencil every single penny on every single little thing. Now you kind of almost get that from us. Yeah. But like if you're looking at a property, whether it's from us or whether it's not from us, there are some big key. You know, some people may call them budget busters, so to speak. And there's some big things that you kind of want to make sure that you're looking at.
Yeah, I would say, first of all, is structure, the structural portion. I mean, you could get hit with, like, say, a furnace. I would say a furnace is on the list.
Mechanicals.
The mechanicals. But a furnace doesn't hit you like a structural repair could. That's a pretty substantial hit. And that could vary. I mean, the structural repair could really vary. And that's when it gets a little scary. I didn't mean to make it rhyme, but it did.
Yeah, wow. That was pretty good, Jared. I think it's the new mood lighting you've got, Jared.
I'm going to use that
It's
later.
The new mood lighting.
That's going to be in my book.
Thanks, Amelia, for the new mood lighting. Mechanicals are definitely one of those important things that you want to look at. And I think mechanicals is really threefold. It's HVAC, it's plumbing, and it's electrical. So, and I don't believe that the actual fixtures are really kind of part of the mechanical. But you should, and I'm not saying everything has to be brand new. You don't have to have a brand new furnace. You don't have to have all new brand new plumbing. You don't have to have all new brand new electrical. Yeah. But some of the key things on those components is, hey, is it in good working order? Like the furnace, for instance, furnace and AC, are these in good working order? I've seen furnaces and AC units go 30, 40 years.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, just because and honestly, sometimes just because it's newer doesn't even mean it's going to last longer.
It's true.
Sometimes I think the newer stuff doesn't last as long, but sometimes you see it and that lasts really long, and you have a good experience with that too. So it's interesting. So I don't always go. I do think the age of the units are important, but I don't think it's the end all say all.
Yeah.
But so HVAC, and there are kind of parts of HVAC, right? Because in some of these older houses, there are boilers, and sometimes the boilers go out, and sometimes then you have to, if you're either replacing a boiler at that point, or you're running all new ductwork and all new everything, and that can be even more expensive. So a new furnace might be $2,500. A new AC unit might be $3,500, but if you got to run ductwork, it's a whole nother $5,000 normally on a property. So when it comes to HVAC, that's what you need to look at. Now, as far as rentals are concerned, up in Northwest Indiana, now we're not in Florida. So in Florida, AC is required.
Oh, it's a must.
Okay.
It's like a furnace
heating is
here.
not. There is no heating requirement for the houses that we have in Florida. Yeah. Up in Northwest Indiana, there is a heating requirement. You, as a landlord, must be able to get your temperature to at least, get this guy, 60, I think it's 66 degrees.
Yeah, 66, 68, something like that, yeah.
It might even be lower than 66. But anyways, it's not as high as you would think. Most people up here have it much warmer than that. We keep our house around 69 in the winter and about 72 to 74 in the summertime. Some people are much lower and much higher, but that's kind of what we do. So anyways, there is a heating requirement, and that is one thing. So as far as mechanicals go, that's it. Now, as far as plumbing is concerned, the things that you want to look at for plumbing is, does it have steel pipes? Now, not copper pipes. Does it have steel pipes? Now, again, steel pipes, are they always bad? No. Do they work? Yes. Can they last 100 years? Yes. So just because it has steel pipes in it doesn't mean it's not going to work.
Right.
But understand that, steel pipes, normally they rust from the inside out. And they especially if a house has been sitting for a long time, that's when you have more problems with the steel pipes than something that's been running. If the water's been running through there constantly and there hasn't been a lot of interruptions, then those pipes tend to stay pretty clean, honestly. And steel pipes can be a good long-term option. But if it doesn't have steel pipes, your other two main options in Northwest Indiana, at least, are copper and PEX. And normally what you're going to see is anything new is going to go into PEX. It is state code. Most national builders use PEX now for even all brand new construction. But those are kind of your main two options when it comes to water lines. There is some houses that you might want to look at. It might have the old CPVC. So the CPVC is no longer code up here. It actually is still code in Pensacola, Florida. We're getting all blurry here, Jared.
Yeah,
What'd you do? We're gonna hopefully we'll. There we go. Oh boy, it's beautiful now, guys.
There she goes.
Sorry for the radio audience there, or the people that are listening to us, but we got all blurry and we had to fix that.
Yep.
But anyway, so CPVC is not something we want to see up here. It is still code in Florida. I don't know what the deal is. I think maybe it's just because of the cold. It does get brittle with the cold. So plumbing, and then the other thing is drain lines. I'll be honest with you, we don't replace a lot of drain lines. We really don't. Some of the super old houses may still have steel drain lines. The biggest problem we have with drain lines, though, is when it comes to the sewer lines. And that is something that we put in every one of our scopes, is we want to rod those lines out every single time. It's part of our something that we put into there for ourselves, even for our own projects. And we would recommend that you do that as well, especially in our area. I don't know if that's the case around the whole country, but I know up here in Northwest Indiana, especially some of the old clay pipes and the old steel pipes, there's roots that can get in there. And if there are roots, like they are going to keep coming. The only way to really get rid of them is to replace the pipes, and that can be very expensive. Yeah. So, and then the last thing I would say when it comes to plumbing, hot water heaters is kind of part of maybe plumbing. That you obviously want to make sure that that's up in good working order, and it does get hot water, and it has everything on it that it's supposed to have. The typical lifespan of a hot water heater is probably, I would say 12 to 15 years is what I normally see, is the typical span. Again, they probably go a little bit longer, but it's not like furnaces. I don't really see 30-year-old hot water tanks around, but you do see 30-year-old furnaces quite often. So that would be the last thing. And then the one more thing that you do want to consider, which is kind of outside of the scope of normal plumbing, is the house well and septic?
Oh, sure.
So, and again, I would say way less than the majority of our houses, probably maybe 20% of our houses, maybe 10% of our houses in this area.
It's pretty low, yeah.
Maybe 10 to 15% of our houses do have either a well or a septic or both. So that could be another thing to consider. We actually have a property right now that has a septic, but the city's bringing in sewer, and they'll only zone this house for a 2-bedroom with the current septic. But as soon as the property gets sewer, it can become a 3-bedroom. So that is something also to consider. And then the other big budget buster there is, like, if it does need a sewer line, depending on where it's at.
Yeah.
Now, one thing I've learned that in Florida, Jared, all the sewers are like 2-3 feet deep. They're not very deep at all. Up here in Northwest Indiana, they can be as deep as 20 feet deep, and sometimes they can be very, very costly. Yeah. I think we've had one that was like in the $30,000 to $40,000 range, and that was because they had to get the Indiana Department of Transportation involved because it was under the street, and that was a nightmare. Yeah. That's a once in a lifetime. I think out of the 2,000 deals we've done, that's happened once. Yeah. But we have had a couple more where they were 20 foot deep, and we had to pay significant amount of money to replace those lines, $8, $10, $12, $1,000 type of deals. So as far as plumbing, that's that, right? Electric. So you move to electric, and the biggest thing for electric that you've got to look for really is the old knob and tube. Oh, yeah. If it's got knob and tube, that's no longer code. And
aluminum wiring.
Aluminum wiring, but that doesn't really come up. It actually comes up a lot in Florida. It doesn't come up that much up here, but it does come up occasionally. I don't remember the last time we've had it up
definitely
here.
Definitely more knob and tube up here.
Yeah, definitely you'll see more of the older knob and tube than you'll see. It seemed like by the time they switched over, they were already going with the copper there. But I mean, sometimes there is a need to also look at the panel to make sure it's not a Wadsworth panel. That's something to consider. Wadsworth panels are no longer really in service, and you can't get parts for them. And if they do, it's like $150 for a breaker. And most home inspectors would tell you that this is no longer a good panel. And then occasionally we still do see from time to time houses that are still on fuses. So having to actually go from fuses to an electric panel. In a rare case that you have to rewire the whole house, Jared, and I'm not sure, how many have you seen of those in the last 5 years that we'd actually have to rewire the entire house?
Probably a few in like the Gary ones that have been vacant for a long time.
Okay. Well, yeah, if like somebody came in and ripped it all out or something, that's true.
Few.
So that could be a big budget thing. In Pensacola, I think 3 of our houses I've already had to replace aluminum wiring. So that could be about a $10,000 bill at that point if you have to completely rewire the whole house. Now, I think we're much cheaper up here from our electricians up here than we are down there. And to replace a panel isn't that much money. If you do need to upgrade your panel, you're talking about $1,500 is probably something that you might want to consider for that. Now, again, obviously the normal stuff when it comes to electrical, the fixtures, the lights, the fans. For plumbing, the normal fixtures, the faucets, the tub, the toilet, that stuff is kind of, I don't think we need to get into that too much. Yeah. You're going to kind of know that by seeing the pictures. We're kind of just trying to think of the things. Hey, if I'm looking at a property,
right,
what do I need to be thinking about?
Yeah, we when we're running our numbers, we are general, but we do try to catch all the big, like you said, the big chunks. So, the roof obviously would be one in the exterior, siding condition. We do put structure in there. And then you're looking at flooring and paint, and in that case, we're very generic. We run it at square foot cost. So you're just kind of doing that. Bathrooms, depending on how bad the bathroom is, you may just have like a general cost number. We're replacing everything, so $3,000, $4,000, whatever that might be. Same thing for kitchen, if you have based on size of the kitchen, and then like you said, getting into the different types of mechanicals and things like that. So in the end, you kind of have a general number going in. Before, and all this is before you do your walkthrough. You're trying to find out, is this even a deal? that's ultimately what you're trying to do. And this is before you create a scope of work, before you maybe get an inspector, before you do any of those details. You're just trying to evaluate, does this deal make sense? Is this even worth bidding on? Is this even worth doing a walkthrough, whatever? And so that's ultimately what you're trying to do when you're estimating.
So you've talked about structure. So some of the things that come up for structure, Jared? Mm-hmm. What are some of the things that might come up for structure?
Like normally, I see quite often with like crawls. It seems like it happens a lot with crawls, where like we've had a lot of properties with a crawl space. That may just be a coincidence, but like a beam maybe won't be supported properly. We did have a situation recently with a buyer where the HVAC guy years ago cut the beam, like literally. They cut the whole beam, main beam going down the middle of the home, and put the ductwork going through that. So and it was covered up. And so getting in there, after pulling up the decking, you see the entire joists were all out of whack, and you had to go and support now the beam but a lot of times you can tell from walking on a property on the floor, if something's not stable or not. You can see if it's not level.
Structural is more the wood and the floor joists and the rim joists around the outside in the basement or in the crawl space. Structural a little bit can also be on the roofing a little bit at times. There is some structural integrity that gets brought in by the roofing materials, not the actual roofing shingles, but the actual roof structure. And then there's foundations as well. Correct, so we also have foundations, and we have something up here called basements, which down south, if you're from down south, you don't really have a lot of those basements, but we have a lot of basements up here. And it's kind of structural, and it's also kind of foundation as well. Sometimes we'll have walls that will bow on the inside. And it's not as big of a deal, believe it or not, as some of the structural issues that the people down south have, where there's a lot of cracking. Like we don't have a lot of this major floor cracking and major like wall cracking. There's not a lot of that, but there is a lot of pressure on a lot of the walls because a lot of the soil up here is clay, and that sometimes like pushes a lot of pressure against the walls as it rains, and water's always going to win. So that's something else that could come up, and that's something that you kind of want to be aware of and think about and see if there's anything. So Jared talked about this a little bit already. So I look at the outside as one thing, right? So the outside is your roof, your siding, your windows, your exterior doors. And then if you want to go a little farther than that, if something needs to be done to the garage door, and then landscaping to kind of finish it off. Yeah. And then there might be paint as well, but that could be painting of doors, painting of trim, that could be painting of siding. Yeah. So a lot of times my wife, when she's designing properties, she loves to put shutters on houses that don't have shutters, and I like that as well. Yeah. So that's another little thing that we add on there.
Even if only the front.
Exactly. Even if it's only the front, it does really help the property look nicer. And even just a little bit of mulch, and not like when we say landscaping, we're not talking like
stone,
bringing in like piles of stones and building some massive fountain. It's really just making the front of the place look good. Maybe power washing is another possible thing that might happen from time to time on the outside of the property. And then the inside, we talked already about mechanicals is a big part. Foundation and the structure. Yeah. Right? And then from there, I like to chunk into like bathrooms and kitchens. Yep. So Jared talked already about bathrooms. Our typical bathroom, we like to do at least one tub in a property. I know some people are all about showers, but even if we have a tub, we still do a shower. Yep. And we like to put nice, tub surrounds, nice tile tub surrounds on those. We also, if it doesn't have a newer faucet, we want to replace the faucet on those. If it doesn't have a newer toilet, we do want to put a newer toilet on, a new vanity. And a typical bathroom, Jared, if they have to redo everything, now not go down to the studs, but if they had to redo maybe everything, maybe they had to replace the tub, maybe they did the tub surround, maybe they did the vanity, depending on the size of the vanity, because vanities can vary in price depending on how big they are. Vinyl plank flooring, a mirror, a light. I mean, you're talking $1,800 to $2,500 maybe on a typical bathroom.
Yeah, I mean, I think we typically estimate a little higher.
Oh, we do? Okay.
Just to be safe. But I would say anywhere from $3,000 to $4,000, depending on the.
And hey, I grew up in construction, so sometimes my numbers get off because I am used to 20-year-old numbers.
Well, and the thing is, we also do use different materials today that it's a little more expensive. So
everything
tile, surround, right?
So $3,000 to $4,000 for a bathroom, and then kitchens. I mean, we're looking at really $6,500 to probably $8,500 on your typical bathroom, a typical kitchen. And again, we are not always, but sometimes we're putting in new cabinets. That would include new cabinets.
Not always, but a lot.
We don't always put in new cabinets.
Yeah.
And again, a reason for that is I think sometimes the older cabinets might outlast some of the newer cabinets.
Very true.
And sometimes it's just not worth, if they are in good working order, sometimes they can be painted. And then we again, something that we are really big on at Olson Group, one group network to be.
Good save.
is we do want to make sure that we are doing quartz countertops or granite countertops and a nice tile backsplash in the kitchen and a nice faucet and a nice, like, you know what I mean? Like it turns me off so bad when I go into some of these properties that I'm like, oh man, this is like, ugh. For $1,000 more, they could be
very inexpensive
into a whole different looking kitchen. So then you got that, and then the rest of the stuff is really just basic. You know, there's some lights, there's plugs and switches that you might replace. Vinyl plank floors. We like to finish the hardwood floors if there's hardwood floors.
Yep.
We don't do a ton of carpet. We will do some carpet from time to time on stairs or in certain areas.
Bedrooms,
or bedrooms or basements and stuff. And we like to do commercial carpet sometimes in the basements. But overall, I think that pretty much. We do also do a lot of luxury vinyl plank, which it does cost more money.
It's more than
hardwood
floors.
More money than carpet, and it's more money than refinishing the hardwood floors. And so that's part of the reason why we like to refinish the hardwood floors.
Yeah.
I think it actually looks better.
I agree
as well. But we're not going to get into the nitty gritty about buying screws and drywall.
You might want to add like
insulation
a miscellaneous
and all this other stuff that could be in a property. But as far as overall, when I'm looking at a property online, and hopefully when you're looking at a property that maybe we send you, or maybe you're getting it sent from somebody else, these are the big things that I would look at. The only one thing I can think about that I might have overlooked is maybe are there overhanging trees or something that could be a problem with that down the road. But other than that, I think we kind of covered all the big budget items.
No, I think that's good. And then in the end, you're wanting to create more or less, it is a rough scope per se or estimate of the repairs. And then down the road, whenever you go to the property, you make your bid, then at least you're confirming everything that you have. And then of course at that time adjusting based upon what you're seeing. But this is kind of introductory. Now, if you're buying a deal from us, you'll see we provide the pictures and the scope, so you'll see exactly why we did what we did. And sometimes, like what Tom said about the cabinets, we don't always put in new cabinets. And we went to a couple properties yesterday, had a guest from New York come in, and it was amazing how well they turned out after they were painted. But they're just better material. They're just well made. And they will last a lot longer than some of the newer cabinets that are put in there. So there are some benefits to keeping stuff like that. But in the end, these are all things.
Jared, I have a question. What do you think about the old metal cabinets?
They got to go.
I put you on the spot.
Those are
for kitchen cabinets. Okay, I agree. They got to go. But I'll tell you, they've lasted already a long time.
They have. Well, don't just throw them away. Recycle them.
Oh my goodness.
No.
I'm glad you brought that up because I was going to bring that up. I appreciate that. So yes, this is what we just explained to you is what we do. We go out and we look at the property, and this is kind of, we are writing down, we're trying to figure out is this a deal? But really what we try to do for you is we take it a whole nother step, way past what we just went, put it all on paper. We've put a lot of work and a lot of effort and a lot of money into building our own Scoper app that's actually called Scoper. Cool. That we own the rights to that app, and we know exactly what the material's going to cost because we've already uploaded all that data. We know exactly what each line item should cost, and we try to provide that value to our customers. And you get that on a silver platter. You kind of get all of what we just talked about, plus about another 3 hours worth of work on that scope before you even see that scope. So, but hopefully this kind of helped you kind of understand a little bit. Maybe you're just a regular investor. Maybe you're going to fix and flip yourself, or maybe you're going to do some of these burrs yourself and you're not going to work with a turnkey provider. Hopefully this brought you value. And if it did, give us a thumbs up. Give us some 5-star reviews out there, folks. Leave some comments below if you're watching this on social media, and let us know what else we can do to help you.
Yeah, we thank you for joining us today. We hope it brought you value, like Tom said. Also, if you're looking to invest, we do build rental portfolios for investors. You can buy properties turnkey or active turnkey from us. You can lend to the company. There's opportunities for lending you can get into. So if that interests you, you can reach us at onegroupnetwork.com.
Onegroupnetwork.com.
Trying to learn that.
Jared
at buyonegroupnetwork.com.
Yeah, he wanted that email.
I wanted to keep the buy.
Yeah, you could also reach him at Jared@buyolsongroup.com.
You could still do
we're
that.
Still doing. Yeah. We're still strangling both. Strangling.
Yes.
Strangling.
We're not strangling.
Both. We're not strangling.
We don't advocate that.
But we are in the middle of a branding change there.
Yes.
So bear with us a little bit when it comes to that. So we'll get used to it. Hopefully you guys will as well. But hopefully, like I said, hopefully this brought you value. I do want to remind you guys, I have started new investor calls. These are free calls. If you want to be live on some of the people that I get my advice from, and some of the people I do deals with, and some of the people I have hired myself as consultants or as coaches, or whatever you call, or other speakers that I speak with around the country, our next call. I shouldn't give dates, because of the way that these go out. But you can just go to goodsuccess.com and find out more information about that. We also have an event coming up. I'd love to see your pretty little face here at our event September 7 through 9 called the Free for All, the Real Estate Free for All. We have a ton of fun. It's really meant for 3 reasons: for fun, for you to do deals, and for you to learn a bunch of people. But actually, there's 4 reasons. And for you to build your network. It really is a great networking time. We have a lot of fun. We actually make sure that everybody stays and they eat here. At least 4 meals, I think we eat here on property.
Sounds
and we
good.
also have a really fun nights. We have 2 fun nights that are planned as well, with karaoke. So if you're a karaoke singer, you might like that. And also real estate horror stories. So if you want to be involved in that, let us know. We had a great time with this. Last couple of years we've done this, and you get to come see Jared, and you get to come see our staff here at Olson Group and at Olson Property Services and Olson Construction Management. And we'd love to be able to see you. So goodsuccess.com, you can find out more information about both of those things, our free calls and the real estate free for all event. Again, we build rental portfolios for investors. Jared would love to be able to help you there. Jared@buyolsongroup.com or onegroupnetwork.com. You can go to the website there. Get on our buyers list if you're not already.
That's right.
Give us a thumbs up. Give us a 5-star review, and we will see you next week.
Thank you for joining us. Active Turnkey,
the best way to buy rentals. God bless. Have a good day.
Olson Group Network makes no warranty, guarantee, or representation as to the accuracy or sufficiency of the information featured in this podcast. The information, opinions, and recommendations presented in this podcast are for general information only, and any reliance on the information provided in this podcast is done at your own risk. This podcast should not be considered professional advice. Unless specifically stated otherwise, Olson Group Network does not endorse, approve, recommend, or certify any information, product, process, service, or organization presented or mentioned in this podcast, and information from this podcast should not be referenced in any way to imply such approval or endorsement. Any third-party materials or content of any third-party site referenced in this podcast do not necessarily reflect the opinions, standards, or policies of Olson Group Network. Olson Group Network assumes no responsibility or liability for the accuracy or completeness of the content contained in third-party materials or on third-party sites referenced in this podcast, or the compliance with the applicable laws of such materials and/or links referenced herein.